Imagine someone who never feels guilt. Every action, no matter how cruel, is executed with absolute coldness, as if the consequences simply didn't exist. This person can be charismatic, even charming. They speak confidently, maintain unwavering eye contact, and exude an unsettling sense of security. But behind that mask of perfection lies an emotional void that few can detect. Psychopaths aren't horror movie monsters. They live among us, hidden behind calculated smiles and carefully rehearsed gestures. Their lack of empathy doesn't necessarily turn them into serial killers. At least, not always. Many live within society, manipulating situations for their own benefit, never feeling the weight of guilt or the discomfort of remorse. The psychopathic mind works differently. Emotions don't influence decisions, only results, gain, and control matter. It's a silent game of power, where the winner is the one who can conceal their true nature the longest. Psychopathy isn't a passing disorder, nor a condition triggered by recent trauma. It's a deeply rooted set of personality traits that define a distinct way of interacting with the world. Individuals with these traits don't form genuine emotional bonds, and behind a normal appearance, they conceal a disturbing emotional void. They are masters of disguising their true nature, mimicking socially accepted behaviors to integrate, gain trust, and manipulate. These individuals feel no empathy, guilt, or remorse. Human emotions, which serve as moral barriers for most people, don't exist in their full form within a psychopath. They can imitate feelings, but they don't experience them authentically. This emotional coldness makes them skilled manipulators, able to control situations in their favor without hesitation or discomfort. The Hare Psychopathy Checklist, one of the most well-known tools for identifying these traits, measures behaviors and attitudes such as superficial emotions, impulsivity, narcissism, and manipulative tendencies. Those who score high on this scale are considered psychopaths. The most intriguing part? Not all of them become violent criminals. Many live seemingly normal lives within society, but their actions and decisions are always guided by personal interests, with no regard for the feelings or well-being of others. The brain of a psychopath operates differently, and science has the evidence. Neuroimaging studies reveal unusual patterns in key areas responsible for empathy, fear, and impulse control. The amygdala, which processes negative emotions like fear and guilt, shows reduced or, in some cases, nearly inactive function. When exposed to images or situations that would cause discomfort or compassion in others, psychopaths remain emotionally unaffected. Additionally, the prefrontal cortex, which regulates social behavior and moral decision-making, functions atypically in psychopathic brains. This brain area is crucial for evaluating consequences and inhibiting destructive impulses. Reduced activity in this region may explain why psychopaths are more likely to make cold decisions without hesitation, even when it involves harming someone. The most alarming aspect isn't just the absence of emotional responses but the cold calculation behind each move. They don't react impulsively. On the contrary, they are often exceptional strategists. The lack of empathy allows them to make purely rational decisions, free from the moral weight that would restrain a typical person. To a psychopath, every situation is a logical equation, and the goal is always to maximize personal gain, no matter the cost to others. Most psychopaths are aware that they think and behave differently. Often from a young age, they recognize that they don't experience emotions like other people do. Empathy, guilt, and remorse, natural instincts for most, are absent for them. However, this awareness doesn't drive them to seek help because, in their eyes, this absence of emotion isn't a flaw, it's an advantage. They don't see their behavior as wrong, only efficient. The ability to act without being hindered by feelings or moral dilemmas allows them to advance quickly in competitive environments, never hesitating before making tough decisions. When confronted about their actions, psychopaths usually justify themselves rationally, claiming that emotions get in the way of logical judgment and objective decision-making. In many cases, they understand human emotions intellectually, not instinctively. They know how others feel and how they should react to appear normal. However, this understanding becomes a tool for manipulation, not a means to form genuine connections. Their deep knowledge of others' emotions, paired with their lack of genuine feelings, turns the psychopath into a master manipulator. While others play with empathy, they play with control and cold calculation, always seeking the next best move. The absence of remorse in a psychopath isn't a conscious decision, it's a direct consequence of how their brain processes emotions and moral judgments. While most people feel guilt after causing pain or suffering, psychopaths are immune to this emotional response. The root of this emotional void lies in abnormalities identified in brain areas responsible for empathy and self-control. The amygdala, for instance, plays a fundamental role in processing emotions like fear and guilt but shows low activity in individuals with psychopathic traits. This means the natural reaction of putting oneself in someone else's shoes, of feeling the impact of one's actions, simply doesn't happen. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making and self-regulation, also functions abnormally, contributing to the impulsivity and emotional coldness of these individuals. For a psychopath, actions are merely a means to an end. They don't feel the need to justify their actions or regret their choices, regardless of the consequences. Remorse, which usually serves as a moral break, is replaced by a pragmatic logic. If the action was advantageous, then it was the right decision. The suffering of others is irrelevant in this calculation. This absence of guilt, however, doesn't necessarily imply physical violence. Many psychopaths will never commit a crime but will use their emotional coldness to manipulate, deceive, and exploit without hesitation. The real danger doesn't lie in violent acts but in their ability to act without any emotional limit, turning every relationship into an opportunity for personal gain. Contrary to popular stereotypes, not every psychopath is a criminal or a serial killer. Many live fully integrated lives within society's rules, hiding their true nature behind a facade of success and competence. These are known as functional psychopaths, individuals who operate within society, often occupying positions of leadership, influence, and power. The corporate world, for instance, is fertile ground for these personalities. Emotional coldness, the ability to make ruthless decisions, and the skill to manipulate others' feelings are often seen as qualities of strong leadership. Ambition, combined with a lack of empathy, creates professionals capable of advancing without hesitation, eliminating competitors, and forging alliances only as long as they're useful. These individuals know exactly how to appear trustworthy and charismatic. They exhibit impeccable behavior, cultivate a flawless public image, and are often admired for their determination and focus. However, behind this mask of perfection, they operate with calculated coldness. Every decision is motivated by personal gain, and any trace of kindness or compassion is merely a strategic tool for manipulation and control. The most alarming fact? They are rarely detected. Their emotional intelligence, although superficial, is refined enough to go unnoticed. Those close to them may feel an instinctive discomfort but rarely can identify the true cause. The functional psychopath plays a silent and complex game, and, more often than not, wins without anyone noticing. A psychopath's true power lies not just in their emotional coldness but in their ability to manipulate those around them silently. Manipulation is the invisible thread that weaves through their personal relationships, and this ability rarely reveals itself in obvious actions. Instead, it manifests in subtle gestures, carefully chosen words, and meticulously planned behaviors. The psychopath masters the art of identifying emotional weaknesses. They observe, analyze, and, when necessary, strike where defenses are weakest. It could be a calculated compliment at the right moment, advice disguised as genuine concern, or a gesture of kindness that later turns into a bargaining chip. The victim, unaware, becomes emotionally dependent on this figure, trusting someone who never had pure intentions. In romantic relationships, the manipulation cycle becomes even more evident. It starts with idealization. The psychopath presents themselves as the perfect partner, attentive and charming. Over time, small devaluations emerge, criticisms disguised as jokes, subtle social isolation, and questions that slowly erode the victim's self-confidence. The manipulation is so refined that the affected person doesn't realize the gradual control being exercised. The result is devastating. The victim loses autonomy, begins to doubt their own feelings, and, in many cases, doesn't realize they're trapped in an emotional control web. The psychopath, in turn, maintains complete dominance over the situation, feeding on the power they exert over others' minds. And the cruelest part? When the relationship's usefulness ends, the discard happens abruptly, leaving behind confusion and emotional devastation. What makes psychopathy so unsettling isn't explicit violence or the brutal crimes portrayed in fiction, but the silent danger it represents in everyday life. The real threat lies in seemingly normal faces, casual interactions, and smiles that conceal hidden intentions. Psychopaths can be coworkers, bosses, respected leaders, or even close friends, and most will never be unmasked. They don't need weapons to exert control. Their tools are words, gestures, and emotions they pretend to feel. Every interaction is a game, every relationship an opportunity for manipulation. The most disturbing fact is that, in many cases, these individuals are seen as examples of success, charismatic, confident, and determined. In today's fiercely competitive world, society often rewards the same traits that define a functional psychopath. The real question, then, isn't whether a psychopath is among us but understanding the silent impact of their actions. Emotional control, constant manipulation, and the absence of remorse slowly corrode the foundations of trust in any relationship. And in the end, the true damage isn't physical but psychological, a hidden scar left in the minds of their victims. What remains is a warning: not everything that seems empathetic is genuine. Not every kind gesture is born from good intentions. And perhaps the most unsettling truth is that the psychopathic mind may be far more common and closer than we're ready to accept. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the human psyche, don't forget to leave a like, share this video with someone who would also be intrigued by these dark mysteries, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next videos. Turn on notifications to be the first to explore new enigmas of the human mind.